Here.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And here we are again. This is Mike Lodge, the business advisor, and I'm glad that you have joined me. I don't know where you're at. You could be all over the world. Hey, by the way, those of you listening to me in Singapore, thanks for listening. Those of you who are listening to me in Italy, thanks for listening. A whole bunch of countries out there listening to me, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and spend some time with me. So, all of you guys go out and get some coffee right now, and let's sit down and talk, because we need to have a serious conversation here about what's happening in this banking world. Yesterday, Moody's cut outlook on U.S. banking, on the U.S. banking system as a whole, to negative, citing rapidly deteriorating operating environments. Well, that's true. We have some negative stuff out there happening in not just banking, but in the corporate world itself, because people have lost sight on what they're doing. They want to go out and become all invested in this social nonsense and political nonsense that they have forgotten that they're running a business. And in that business, you have to have very good leadership. And you need to be focused on what you're doing. If you're a bank, you're doing banking work. But see, people are straying off. They're straying off into crypto. They're straying off into these risky type of situations. And then they're becoming very politically involved. So their time is not 100% focused on the business. And it's got to be. And that's where we need to get back to. But Moody's has downgraded a whole bunch of banks yesterday because of their operating and how it's being operated. And that's key. Management is the key. I want to tell you, I was reading an article today, and it was on CNBC, and Carl Icahn, who has been investing in these companies for years, he made a statement, and I agree with this statement. Carl Icahn says our economy is breaking because of inflation and poor corporate leadership. And that has what has the corporate world out there and the businesses out there and the layoffs and everything that you see is because of bad leadership, bad management. And that's what happened with these banks. You know, there was also another article. And it was telling about who were the board members of the Silicon Valley Bank. And it said that Obama official was a member, Hillary donors were members, an improv actor. These are the types of people that were sitting on the board. They had no banking experience. So it reads like this. So I'll read just a portion of it, okay? And then I'll put a link down below in the show notes. Everything that I talk about, by the way, there's a show note down below that you can link to. So it says, one is a Hillary Clinton mega donor who went to a Shinto shrine to pray after Donald Trump won the White House. Another worked for President Barack Obama before her own political career spectacularly failed. A third is a prolific contributor to Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, who owns a Napa Valley vineyard just 15 minutes from the former House Speaker's place. And then it says, the 12 directors who were supposed to oversee fallen Silicon Valley Bank and prevent the catastrophic errors that through I don't know why I do that. That threw the whole banking system into jeopardy on Friday might not be household names, but they are facing a series of investigations by the Department of Justice. So you had individuals in that bank overseeing the fiscal responsibility of the bank who had no banking experience. no business experience, a lot of political experience, but let me tell you, politicians will always drive a company into bankruptcy. People in that genre do not know anything about a profit and loss statement, looking at the risk, looking at the analysis of the portfolios that they have. They know nothing. And the same thing happened with several other banks where we have people who are not fiscally sound in knowledge of the banking world or the business world. And when you have that, you're doomed for failure. When you have people so concerned about LGBTQ and he, she, they, all this woke stuff, you fail at the business that you're trying to run. If you're not fully focused on banking, you are going to make mistakes. And if you can't admit that you're wrong, you're going to destroy a business. And when you have people who have come from failure before, expect failure. If you have no one sitting on these boards who know what they're doing, there needs to be a change. And that is a problem with American corporations at the moment. They have lost sight of how to run their businesses. They have lost sight of how to do the deep work to understand what their companies are doing. I would say that many of those on the board of directors don't even know how to read an income statement or a balance sheet, or the statement of cash flows, or the management reports. And that is a real problem. If you don't know your business, you are going to drive it into the ground. So Carl Icahn is correct. One, inflation. Inflation has done a terrible thing to the United States, to businesses. The costs have gone up. Their management style do not know how to handle risk. They don't know how to handle inflation. I think that corporations, right at this very moment in time, need to take an internal look at themselves. Look at their board members. Do they have the experience to guide? Do they have the experience to fight for things that are good for the company and not what is political? Do they have the ability to say to the CEO, hey, you're wrong, get your act together, we're running a business here? Do we have the management inside our businesses who understand ethics and who understand the business? Or they just have a title and they're not really performing to what they should be doing? Right now, we are in an economic downturn in this nation. And that means that we have to have key leadership in the right spots, who have the understanding, who have the knowledge, who has the get up and go to get things done. If they are woke, they are not going to be productive for the company, from the top down. And if you've got a woke CEO, if you've got a woke board, you're going to fail your company very quickly. Because your focus is not on the business any longer. It's on what can you do to make a change in the world politically. And so you follow this political agenda that has nothing to do with your business. It only has to do with what's outside. The problem is, businesses need focus. They need the leadership to come in and say, okay, this is what needs to happen. Listen to the people down below and see what they're thinking. If you have a mishap in the thought process down below, you're going to have a long road to change. Because see, now that you become woke, now that you become this politically involved CEO, you have forgotten what's happening within the company. That's what happened with the banks. That's what happened with many companies. Look at Disney. Disney had to change leadership because they became too woke and they became too diversive with their customers. So Carl Icahn is right. And we need to pay more attention to how we're going to get out of this inflation. We have to pay more attention to how we're going to build our companies, how we're going to build up our staff so that they know what they're doing. Do you have the experience to lead and to train your people in the business that you're currently in? You see, so many of you have forgotten about what your core business is because you're so involved in this off-the-wall nonsense wokeness. You should be ashamed of yourselves, honestly. Because you've done more damage to business, more damage to customers, more damage to your employees, to your clients. You've done so much damage. Even to the respect of your company, you have broken your brands because of your wokeness. So right now is the time that you begin to change your way of operating as leaders. Because leadership right now is very important. We don't see it in the White House. There's no leadership there. There's no leadership in Congress. So if you're really smart and if you really want your companies to grow, you have got to become the leaders and start changing things. Stop complaining. Stop being woke. Stop getting involved in all this other nonsense. Look at what Silicon Valley Bank. Look at the risk manager. They did not have a risk manager for 9 months. And then when they do get a risk manager, she spent the last 2 weeks on the job before the collapse working on LGBT issues. That's not what banks are supposed to do. Her job was to evaluate risk. Her job was to say, okay, we have issues here, we need to resolve them. But no, she was off and about doing LGBT stuff. That pisses me off. That probably pisses me off more than anything. Because you had a risk manager who was supposed to be doing her job and she wasn't doing it. We had CEOs and CFOs doing the same thing. So we need to change our goals as leaders. And our goal is that our time is spent 100% on the companies that we are hired by. 100% in making changes to the company to make them run better. To make sure that our employees are trained better. Make sure that we're identifying issues on our board of directors and getting rid of people who do not have the experience needed to guide you. Because that board of directors is there to guide you as a CEO, as a CFO. They are there to guide you. And if they're not guiding you, get rid of them. And that's where we need to make changes immediately and quickly, is in the board of directors and those CEOs and CFOs and other executives who are going woke and not focusing 100% on their business. Listen, this is Mike Lodge. If you have any questions, send that question to me at thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. If you would like to set up an appointment with me and have business coaching or talk about issues, go to www.lodge-co.com. Everybody go out and have a great day. Love you all. Let's be leaders, 100% focused on what we do. Bye-bye.